Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're charting a trajectory that is, well, so improbable, so financially massive, and so culturally pervasive that it really did fundamentally change how media operates on a global scale.
It really did.
We are dedicating this entire deep dive to one name, Oprah Winfrey.
And when we talk about Oprah Winfrey, we're not just discussing a television host. I mean, we are dissecting a force.
Yeah.
A media proprietor, a philanthropist, an actress, an author, someone whose financial and cultural status is just, truly unparalleled.
Right.
I mean, it's an objective fact that she is the richest black woman in the world, one of the wealthiest female celebrities, and was, at one point, the world's only black billionaire. She really earned that moniker, Queen of all media.
And that immediately poses the central, fascinating question we have to unpack today. How did a woman born into, intense rural poverty in Mississippi become arguably the most influential single individual in the world?
It's an incredible question.
Someone capable of shifting entire multi-billion-dollar industries, influencing presidential elections, and just fundamentally changing cultural norms. It's a dizzying climb.
It is, and our sources, they reveal not just a story of success, but really a blueprint for turning vulnerability and personal history into massive cultural capital.
So the mission for this deep dive is clear. We're going to trace that path, starting with a truly, truly challenging childhood. We'll move through the shrewd business maneuvers that revolutionized television, and then we'll culminate in a really intense analysis of the lasting cultural phenomena she created.
And these are concepts that the academic world now universally recognizes: Oprahification and the Oprah Effect.
Right, and these aren't just catchy terms, are they?
Not at all. They describe measurable shifts in our society.
Okay, so we have to start right at the genesis, which spans from about 1954 to 1973. And it begins with a detail that I think most people get wrong.
Right. Her name.
Exactly. She was actually named Orpah Gail Winfrey.
After the biblical figure in the Book of Ruth. It's a very traditional, very powerful name.
It is, but the historical accounts, they all confirm that due to, frequent mispronunciation, Oprah just stuck.
It's a small, early anecdote, but it's almost prophetic, isn't it? A life defined by constant, subtle rebranding.
Yeah.
She was born in Kosciuszko, Mississippi, to Vernita Lee, who was a single teenage mother working as a housemaid. Her father, Vernon Winfrey, was serving in the armed forces at the time.
And he later worked as a coal miner, then a barber, and eventually became a city councilman.
That's right.
But the reality of those first few years, it paints a really stark picture. She spent her first 6 years with her maternal grandmother, Hattie Mae Lee.
And they were living in what is just described as intense rural poverty.
Our sources highlight the almost unimaginable poverty of that time. She often wore dresses made from potato sacks.
Which she recounts led to her being mercilessly teased by the other children.
What's astonishing, though, is the immense contrast between that physical poverty and the incredible intellectual encouragement she was getting.
Her grandmother, Hattie Mae, was instrumental in that. She taught Winfrey to read before the age of 3.
Before 3? Think about that.
Reading fluently before kindergarten in a home where resources were, for all intents and purposes, non-existent.
And this foundational literacy was coupled with an early taste of public performance, right?
Oh, absolutely. Her grandmother encouraged her to speak and recite in public and their local church, where she actually got the nickname the preacher.
Wow.
And Winfrey has often credited her grandmother with giving her this sense of self-worth, this platform to speak, saying she gave me a positive sense of myself.
It really seems like this early training in oral communication was the single silver lining in what was otherwise a desperate existence.
It was a crucial start, but unfortunately the difficulties, they escalated quickly. When she moved back to live with her mother, Vernita Lee, that stability just vanished.
And the sources, they detail a childhood scarred by really profound trauma and instability.
Winfrey has been incredibly open about this. She stated publicly on her own show in 1986 that she was molested by family members, her cousin, her uncle, and a family friend, starting when she was just 9 years old.
That is just an immense burden for any child to carry, especially when you're looking for solace or any kind of stability.
And that trauma and instability, it led directly to rebellion. By the age of 13, after suffering years of what she described as abuse, she ran away from home.
The turbulence really peaked when she became pregnant at 14. Her son was born prematurely and tragically died in infancy.
And this period marks not just a low point, but an existential crisis for her.
But here is where the narrative takes that critical turn. This is the pivot she always credits with saving her life.
Right. She was sent to live with her father, Vernon Winfrey, in Nashville, Tennessee.
And Vernon was the definition of tough love.
Extremely strict. He focused entirely on structure and education. He ensured she met academic standards, he demanded excellence, and crucially, he provided that stability that had just been completely absent.
As Winfrey put it later, it changed the course of my life. He saved me.
He simply knew what he wanted and expected. He would take nothing less.
And that stability, it provided the framework for immediate, high-level success. She transformed into an honors student. She excelled on the high school speech team.
Placing second nationally in dramatic interpretation.
And was voted most popular girl. It's a complete turnaround from the despair of her earlier teens.
And that academic and social prowess, it immediately opened the door to media. At just 17, while still in high school, she won the Miss Black Tennessee beauty pageant,
which led directly to her catching the eye of the local black radio station, WVOL.
And they hired her for part-time news reporting while still in high school.
It's just remarkable how quickly the dominoes fell. That radio gig was secured after she won an oratory contest, which also won her a full scholarship to Tennessee State University,
where she studied communication. Although it's interesting, she took a long pause and didn't officially earn her degree until 1987.
Right, when she was already a massive television success.
Exactly. But the foundation was set. She used that media pathway to escape poverty permanently.
And the transition to television was just as swift. She became the youngest and the first black female news anchor at Nashville's WLAC-TV.
She was even covering the same city beats as future pop culture figures like John Tesh, who was at a competing station.
But the very qualities that would make her a global icon, they initially caused problems.
In the rigid male-dominated world of 1970s news, yeah.
In 1976, she moved to Baltimore's WJZ-TV. But by 77, she was removed as co-anchor of the 6 o'clock news. And the reason they gave is so fascinatingly indicative of her future success.
It was her delivery. It was deemed too emotional and too extemporaneous.
She was known to cry on air when reporting tragedies.
And this is the crux of the conflict, isn't it? The established journalistic world demanded objective report talk, a detached, factual presentation of events.
And she was naturally operating in this realm of rapport talk, injecting personal emotion and empathy into the news.
They saw a flaw.
She was demonstrating the key to her unparalleled success, so they transferred her to daytime talk, where she began co-hosting People Are Talking.
They thought they were sidelining her, but they were actually pointing her toward her destiny.
And that shift into talk shows in Baltimore, that was really just a testing ground for the main event.
The Chicago takeover, the mid-1980s.
Right. In 1984, she moves to Chicago to host AM Chicago, which was this struggling, low-rated, half-hour morning talk show.
The change was immediate, and I mean undeniable. She had this electric connection with the audience.
And within months, not years, but months, the show experienced this exponential surge in popularity.
It went from the lowest-rated show in the market to consistently dominating the time slot. And it effectively overtook the national giant, Phil Donahue, right there in his own backyard in Chicago.
This rapid success attracted the attention of a surprising champion, the famous film critic Roger Ebert.
It was Ebert. He was the one who convinced her to bypass these standard slow-growth contracts and sign a nationwide syndication deal with King World. This is a critical business decision.
And he famously predicted she would generate 40 times the revenue of his own syndicated show.
Ebert saw the potential for a whole new kind of celebrity vehicle.
Oh.
So in September 1986, the show is renamed The Oprah Winfrey Show, and it launches nationwide.
And it didn't just compete with Donahue?
No, it swiftly and decisively displaced it. It became the #1 daytime talk show nationally. And that contest between the two became this huge media story, a clash of styles, of demographics.
So let's define that new style, because it was revolutionary. There was a 1988 Time article that captured the contrast perfectly.
Right. Donahue represented that established, aggressive journalistic style.
And Winfrey was a black woman of ample bulk, a striking physical contrast to the lean, white male norm. And she traded, and I'm quoting, journalistic toughness for plain-spoken curiosity, robust humor, and above all, empathy.
She weaponized vulnerability. I mean, Donahue was often criticized for being manipulative or overly aggressive to get a story.
Right.
Winfrey, by contrast, made the talk show feel like group therapy, as the critics called it. She used her own history, her own trauma, her own vulnerability to create this safe space where guests and the audience felt they had permission to confess and connect.
So crying with her guests wasn't a flaw, like that news director thought.
That was her superpower.
Les Payne of Newsday even observed that she was sharper than Donahue, wittier, more genuine, and far better attuned to her audience.
She completely popularized a new, highly personal version of the talk show, which then spawned an entire industry of copycats, everything from Ricki Lake to the later, more sensationalist shows.
And it was a conscious shift from a reporting model to a relating model. This is where that term Oprahification comes from, isn't it?
It is. It was coined by the Wall Street Journal, and it initially defined the cultural phenomenon of using public confession as a form of therapy.
The linguist Deborah Tannen, she really drilled into the mechanics of this. She wrote in Time that Winfrey created a new communication model, rapport talk,
which is sharply distinguished from report talk.
So report talk is hierarchical, fact-driven, it maintains distance.
And report talk is intimate, it's conversational, and it builds kinship. And Tannen argued that this was critical because television is usually consumed privately in our homes.
So by blending the public stage with this private, intimate disclosure, Winfrey made people feel genuinely linked to her and her guests.
And this style was so effective that critics noted that Oprah-style psychobabble and misty confessions started entering everything, including public and political discourse.
But the show didn't stay static. By the mid-1990s, she implemented that famous pivot to self-improvement and spirituality,
which was trademarked by media observers as Change Your Life TV.
That shift was a calculated move, right? To elevate the brand away from the sometimes tawdry elements of 1990s tabloid TV.
A very calculated move. The show moved consciously toward literature, mindfulness, health, and broader societal issues, from heart disease awareness to discussions on geopolitics.
Which effectively established her as a serious cultural thought leader.
It did. But this elevation is where the intense criticism really begins to take root.
Because by embracing the role of spiritual guide and confidant, she opened the door to promoting concepts that lacked mainstream scientific backing.
Exactly. This is the criticism regarding the promotion of what critics called junk science. And the sources highlight several examples where that line between self-help and credible information just got really blurry.
We have to discuss Jenny McCarthy's appearance,
where she promoted unfounded assertions linking vaccines to autism, a claim that has caused, significant public health concern.
And Suzanne Summers was a frequent guest, discussing non-mainstream hormone treatments, specifically bioidenticals.
And while these subjects were couched in the language of alternative wellness and personal empowerment, they often bypassed rigorous scientific vetting.
Perhaps the most contentious example involves her long-term protege, Dr. Mehmet Oz.
Right. Dr. Oz built a massive syndicated show based on his frequent appearances on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Yet his program, The Dr. Oz Show, faced serious, sustained criticism for promoting pseudoscience.
And this wasn't just low-level controversy. Dr. Oz was criticized explicitly for promoting miracle pills for weight loss supplements that had no credible evidence, using the sensationalist language that seemed to prioritize sales over patient care.
There was a statement from Science-Based Medicine that was particularly damning. It asserted that no other show on television can top the Dr. Oz Show for the sheer magnitude of bad health advice it consistently offers, all while giving everything a veneer of credibility.
And the depth of trust that Winfrey cultivated made this promotion highly effective, yet ethically complicated.
That's the core conflict right there. Her brand is built on trust and personal empathy. So when she endorses a self-help guru or a doctor, the audience translates that personal trust into scientific legitimacy.
But what happens when that legitimacy is challenged?
Well, the sources show the lasting impact of this relationship. Years after her show ended, in 2020, during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, multiple major publications called on Winfrey to publicly denounce specific, medically questionable statements Dr. Oz had made.
About coronavirus treatments and promoting poorly vetted drugs.
Yes. She was held responsible for the intellectual output of her protégés because she was the one who had established their authority in the first place.
Despite the controversies, the run was historic. The Oprah Winfrey Show ran for 25 phenomenal years, concluding in May 2011. But that conclusion was really a transition, not a retirement.
Absolutely. She immediately moved into being a full-fledged media proprietor on the network level. She established OWN, the Oprah Winfrey Network,
which launched on January 1st, 2011, replacing the Discovery Health Channel.
So this was a move from being the face of a single show to being the architect of an entire programming schedule.
And her continued adaptability is so evident in her latest partnerships. Her work with Apple TV Plus has led to current programming, like the digital revival of Oprah's Book Club.
And those timely discussions in Oprah Talks COVID-19 back in 2020, and the continuing series, The Oprah Conversation.
She continues to be a crucial voice in the cultural landscape, even serving a brief stint as a special contributor for 60 Minutes between 2017 and 2018.
She doesn't just adapt to media changes, she creates new models within them.
Okay, let's pivot now to the business side of her story, because this is where that tycoon status is really forged. And it begins with the formation of Harpo Productions.
Which is simply Oprah, spelled backwards.
Harpo Productions was far more than just a production company for her talk show. It was the mechanism that allowed her to transition from high-paid talent to a genuine proprietor.
It was the engine. The engine that launched other massively successful syndicated shows, Dr. Phil, Rachel Ray, and of course, The Dr. Oz Show.
And while those shows represent her power to launch careers and command daytime TV, they also demonstrate how controversy remains intertwined with her business success.
Like with Dr. Phil, for instance.
Right. His approach has often been criticized as simplistic, ineffective, sometimes even harmful. The National Alliance on Mental Illness called his conduct unethical and incredibly irresponsible.
And that's the essential duality of her empire. Immense commercial success, driven by a powerful personal brand, but one that is constantly navigating the ethical boundaries of advice, credibility, and entertainment.
So let's step back and look at the financial architecture, because this is the critical revolutionary point that allowed her to amass her wealth.
This is key. She became a millionaire at 32 when her talk show went into national syndication. But the key isn't the salary.
It's the business structure. She negotiated ownership rights to the program. What exactly does ownership rights mean in this context, and why was that decision so revolutionary at the time?
It is the single most important decision of her professional life. Historically, most television hosts, even successful ones like Donahue, they were employees of the network or the syndication company.
So they got a big salary, but they didn't own the underlying content.
Exactly. When Winfrey negotiated ownership, she secured the intellectual property. She owned the show itself.
Which meant she, through Harpo, collected the massive syndication fees from local stations, she controlled the sale of international rights, and she retained the revenue from all merchandise and related ventures.
This structure was virtually unheard of for talent at that time, especially for a Black woman in media. It wasn't just financial acumen, it was a profound declaration of autonomy that allowed her to build this independent financial fortress.
Her model became the blueprint for later celebrity entrepreneurs.
It did, and that autonomy enabled her publishing dominance. The Oprah magazine was launched, and its success was immediate and staggering. Fortune called it the most successful startup in the industry in 2002.
The magazine wasn't just a lifestyle publication, it was a direct extension of her brand and that whole change your life ethos.
Oh yeah. The pages were filled with her recommendations, her personal philosophy, detailed accounts of her life. And while it maintained incredible relevance for decades, print circulation eventually waned.
And it ended regular monthly print publication after December 2020, shifting its focus online.
But that digital presence is still immense. Oprah.com averages over 70 million page views and more than 6 million users every single month.
Which just demonstrates that the appetite for her curated content remains robust across all these platforms.
And she also briefly dominated audio, signing a 3-year, $55 million contract with XM Satellite Radio in 2006 for Oprah Radio.
So if we look at the financial milestones, we see the results of that savvy structure.
By 2000, her net worth hit $800 million. And she was widely recognized as the richest African-American of the 20th century.
Then, in 2003, she achieved a historic milestone. She became the first Black woman billionaire globally.
It's just astonishing. I mean, think about that journey from wearing potato sacks in rural Mississippi to becoming a self-made billionaire. The scale of wealth accumulation is almost unmatched in entertainment history.
By 2006, she's the highest-paid television entertainer in the U.S., earning an estimated $260 million that year alone.
Which was a figure 5 times greater than the next person on the list, Simon Cowell.
Her success didn't just warrant magazine covers, it warranted academic study.
Right. The University of Illinois taught a course specifically focused on her business accomplishments. History, 298. Oprah Winfrey, the tycoon.
And that tycoon label is reinforced when we look beyond media production and into her substantial real estate holdings. Her portfolio is estimated at about $127 million as of 2022.
Which brands her a significant player in the real estate market.
And her real estate strategy, it seems to blend personal sanctuary with high-value investment.
For sure. Her main home base, often affectionately dubbed the Promised Land, is a sprawling 70 contiguous acre estate in Montecito, California.
With both ocean and mountain views. It's not just a home, it's an iconic symbol of her achievement and sanctuary.
But she operates across diverse markets.
Yeah.
We see strategic investments like the purchase and later sale of her combined unit Chicago duplex for $4.6 million in 2015.
And she is a major landowner in Hawaii. She owns several properties totaling 163 acres in Kula and Hana. And then recently, in 2023, she purchased an additional 870 acres of land in Maui.
And that Maui acquisition in 2023, which occurred shortly before the devastating fires, it signals that her business acumen continues to drive her decision-making. She is investing in land, a historically reliable asset, on a massive scale.
So her real estate portfolio confirms that the business savvy behind Harpo Productions extends far into the physical world, just cementing her status as a genuine financial heavyweight. Now we arrive at the impact of all that power and trust, the phenomenon known globally as the Oprah Effect.
This term, it defines her immense measurable power to influence public opinion, specifically consumer purchasing choices and critically political outcomes.
And the Oprah Effect is perhaps most clearly quantified in the world of publishing. Her book club was a guaranteed pathway to literary success.
The moment she selected a book, it instantly became a major bestseller, regardless of its original obscurity.
The numbers are just staggering. Our sources confirm that simply being chosen for Oprah's book club often translated directly into 1 million additional book sales for an author.
This wasn't just helping sell books. This was transforming careers and literary genres.
We saw highbrow literature suddenly soar to the top of the charts, like when she selected John Steinbeck's classic East of Eden,
which suddenly found this massive new audience. Her influence was so immense, she could transform the cultural relevance of a classic overnight or create a guaranteed market for a brand new debut.
The consumer trust in her judgment was absolute.
But that immense power came with immense drama and legal challenges. Let's look at the famous beef trial in 1998.
This is a remarkable story. It's about the limits of free speech and media influence.
Right. In 1996, after a show discussing mad cow disease, Winfrey made that now famous comment, claiming she was stopped cold from eating another burger.
And Texas cattlemen, seeing an immediate drop in beef futures, filed a lawsuit. They claimed she and her guest were liable for false defamation of perishable food and business disparagement.
They alleged her remarks cost beef producers a staggering $11 million.
The trial in Amarillo, Texas, became a media circus. It was a clear test of whether her unique brand of media influence superseded traditional free speech protections.
And after a 2-month trial, the jury sided with Winfrey and her guest, finding them not liable for damages.
Which was a crucial victory, legally cementing her right to free expression, even with her undeniable power to move markets.
It established that while her influence was profound, it could not be legally classified as commercial fraud or defamation, simply because she expressed a personal opinion.
Yet contrast that victory for journalistic free speech with the controversy around author James Frey and his memoir, A Million Little Pieces.
A huge controversy. After the book, which she selected for her club, was found to contain fabrications in 2006, Winfrey publicly confronted him on her show.
And this creates a fascinating conflict that we need to analyze. On one hand, she fought the powerful beef industry, defending her guests' right to speak truth about food safety.
But on the other hand, some critics, like Lisa de Moraes of the Washington Post, they argued she seemed less willing to apply that same level of scrutiny to celebrity guests she personally favored.
Only delivering the hammer to Frey when the scandal embarrassed her book club.
And it suggests a tension, right, between the need to maintain trust with her audience, which was built on honesty, and the business imperative of protecting her brand image.
It absolutely does. She was navigating that difficult space between personal loyalty and professional responsibility.
It highlights the difficulty when your business is built on intimacy. When that intimate relationship, her endorsement, is betrayed by Frey's fabrication, the response is deeply personal and publicly devastating.
Interestingly, Winfrey herself later apologized to Frey in 2009 for the public nature and the intensity of that confrontation.
Which suggests she perhaps regretted prioritizing brand protection over personal dignity.
Her status was further cemented by her ability to secure these massive high-profile interviews. her 1993 primetime interview with Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson talks to Oprah. It remains a watershed moment. It became the most watched interview ever, pulling in a staggering audience of 36.5 million.
That kind of audience guaranteed cultural ubiquity. Even on a lighter note, the end of her 16-year rift with David Letterman in 2005 was viewed as a genuine cultural moment.
Her appearance on his show, promoting the color purple, was hailed as the television event of the decade. It drew Letterman's largest audience in over 11 years.
But criticism followed her into the entertainment realm, too, particularly regarding her perceived biases.
You're talking about the anti-hip-hop claims.
Yeah, in 2006, rappers Ludacris, 50 Cent, and Ice Cube criticized her for what they saw as an anti-hip-hop bias, noting a perceived reluctance to feature hip-hop artists on her platform.
And Winfrey responded by stating that while she enjoyed some artists, like Kanye West, she fundamentally opposed rap lyrics that marginalize women.
Which again shows her willingness to use her platform as a moral arbiter, defining what content was worthy of the Oprah brand and what fell outside her moral universe.
So let's pivot to her political influence, because this is perhaps the most concrete, quantifiable element of the Oprah effect.
She publicly identifies as a political independent, stating that she has earned the right to think for myself and to vote for myself.
And her political endorsements carry astonishing weight, because they flow directly from that personal, trusting rapport she built with her audience. Her most significant intervention was her 2006 endorsement of then-presidential candidate Barack Obama.
Which was her first ever political endorsement.
And the impact was not just anecdotal, it was statistically measured. Economists at the University of Maryland did a detailed analysis, estimating that her endorsement alone was responsible for mobilizing between 420,000 and 1.6 million votes for Obama in the Democratic primary.
That is a seismic level of celebrity influence.
The economists suggested that without her endorsement, the critical mobilization of voters, especially among specific demographics like Black women, might not have occurred.
Suggesting he might have lost the nomination entirely.
Think about the depth of that trust. Voters weren't acting on a political analysis from a think tank. They were acting on a personal recommendation from a figure they trusted more than many journalists or politicians.
Rod Blagojevich, the former governor of Illinois, was so profoundly impressed that he reportedly considered offering Winfrey Obama's vacant Senate seat.
He reportedly called her the most instrumental person in electing Barack Obama president, claiming she had a voice larger than all 100 senators combined.
Winfrey quickly and humorously shut that down, saying she was absolutely not interested, but she did acknowledge the underlying sentiment.
Right, she added she felt she could be a senator.
Her political engagement has remained consistent. She endorsed Hillary Clinton in 2016, specifically calling Republican Donald Trump a demagogue.
She campaigned heavily for Stacey Abrams in 2018, supported Joe Biden in 2020, and most recently endorsed Kamala Harris at the 2024 Democratic National Convention.
And here is the profound irony that demonstrates her political independence, proving she is not simply a partisan cheerleader.
You're talking about the 2022 Pennsylvania Senate race.
Exactly. She publicly endorsed Democrat John Fetterman in that highly contentious race, specifically endorsing him over her former protege, Republican Mehmet Oz.
That decision was a powerful statement. She prioritized her political convictions over the deep personal and business loyalty she had demonstrated to Dr. Oz for years.
Creating an uncomfortable but politically significant friction.
And beyond endorsements, she actively works on mobilization. In 2022, she established Own Your Vote, a nonpartisan group focused on voter registration and a Get Out the Vote campaign.
And crucially, the campaign was specifically aimed at providing Black women with the tools and resources needed to vote in the November election, reflecting a targeted application of her influence to address historical underrepresentation. Okay, moving beyond the measurable media and political empires, many observers argue that her influence operates on a fundamentally spiritual level.
She's been described as an influential spiritual leader, the Church of O, and a postmodern priestess.
Christianity Today asserted back in 2002 that her most significant role had transcended media mogul and had become that of a spiritual leader to her overwhelmingly female audience of over 22 million.
And that speaks to the depth of connection created through rapport talk. She became a moral and spiritual guide.
Her personal theology reflects this blend of traditional faith and modern self-help. She was raised Baptist. She identifies as Christian, but her statements often emphasize a broader, more universal spirituality.
Like when she says, I believe in the God force that lives inside all of us. And once you tap into that, you can do anything.
She often promotes this very personalized, intuitive method for navigating life's challenges, exemplified by her preferred guidance mechanism. Doubt means don't.
When you don't know what to do nothing until you do know what to do.
Yeah.
It's practical, spiritual advice tailored for a broad modern audience.
However, this embrace of broader, personalized spiritual concepts is precisely where she drew her heaviest criticism from both traditional religion and secular skepticism.
Right. She faced intense backlash for promoting specific New Age concepts, most notably endorsing The Secret.
And this is the book that claims people can change their lives, their health, their fortunes simply through positive thoughts or vibrations operating under the law of attraction.
Skeptics were furious. The magician and prominent skeptic James Randi accused her of being deliberately deceptive and uncritical in her handling of paranormal or unsupported self-help claims,
arguing that she traded scientific rigor for feel-good solutions.
She also championed Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth, which sold millions of copies after its book club selection.
And during one of the massive promotional webinars, she made a statement that became highly controversial. She said, "God is a feeling experience and not a believing experience."
And this stance led to direct criticism from mainstream Christian leaders like the radio host Frank Pastore, who argued that if she identified as Christian, she was an ignorant one.
Because the core tenets of Christianity are fundamentally incompatible with the principles of New Age thought she was promoting.
And this tension between faith, self-help, and pseudoscience, it runs right through the center of her later career.
But that tension has to be balanced against the undeniable positive influence of her philanthropy. The sheer scale of it is immense.
By 2012, she had personally given away approximately $400 million. Primarily directed toward educational causes.
And she has consistently been recognized for her generosity. In 2004, she became the first Black person to rank among the top 50 most generous Americans.
And she remained on that prestigious list for 6 straight years until 2010.
Let's detail 2 of her most important philanthropic vehicles. First, Oprah's Angel Network,
which operated from 1998 to 2010 and raised over $80 million globally for various charitable projects.
And what sets this apart, what demonstrates her commitment to ethical giving, is the mechanism she established. Winfrey personally covered all administrative costs associated with the charity.
Which means that 100% of the funds raised went directly to the charitable programs themselves.
A rare feat in the world of high-profile philanthropy, where administrative overhead often consumes a significant percentage of donations.
Her second major project is the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls in Johannesburg, South Africa.
She personally invested $40 million to establish this school, which opened in 2007.
And the campus is luxurious by any measure. A 22-acre, state-of-the-art facility with advanced computer and science labs, a theater, even a beauty salon.
And this level of opulence led to controversy, with critics labeling the school elitist and unnecessarily luxurious,
arguing the funds could have been better spent on supporting more widespread basic education programs.
But Winfrey met those criticisms head-on. She firmly rejected the claims and articulated her philosophy on environment and self-worth.
She argued that beauty brings out the beauty in you, suggesting that a beautiful, non-dilapidated environment was essential for inspiring confidence and high achievement in students who came from impoverished backgrounds.
She has also shared very personal reflections on her motives for the school, noting that she ultimately chose not to have biological children because she didn't feel she had the patience for babies.
But she had infinite patience for the girls of the academy, expressing this deep maternal connection to their development.
Her giving has continued up to the present day. In 2013, she donated $12 million to the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture.
And following the devastating 2023 Maui wildfires, she personally donated $25 million toward the People's Fund of Maui, which she co-founded with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
And finally, it's just important to acknowledge that her impact has been recognized at the highest levels of government and culture.
The Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2013, the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award, the Spingarn Medal in 2000.
And she's accumulated 19 Daytime Emmy Awards, including a Lifetime Achievement Award. The recognition really matches the scope of the empire she built.
Okay, let's unpack this ultimate takeaway. When we look back at the scope of this deep dive, we see not just a life story, but a study in dualities.
There's the profound, almost unimaginable trauma of her early years: poverty, abuse, the loss of her infant son, juxtaposed directly with her self-made billionaire status and global celebrity.
She exists simultaneously as an entertainment icon, a ruthless business tycoon who redefined media ownership.
And a controversial spiritual and political force. Few figures manage to occupy all those roles with such intensity.
And fewer still manage to leverage their private pain to create such a durable public foundation of trust.
That connection, that rapport talk, that is her greatest legacy. She took private suffering and transformed it into a communal, nationally syndicated experience.
Turning her television show into the ultimate trusted confidant of the world. And that trust is what truly fuels the Oprah Effect. Her unique ability to translate personal belief into massive political and consumer action.
Which leaves us with this provocative thought for you to carry forward. Considering the immense power of the Oprah Effect, a power that can secure millions of votes or redefine an entire product market, how should society scrutinize the endorsements of figures who cultivate such intense trusting rapport with their enormous audience? If trust is the commodity, what responsibility does the seller bear, and how should we as consumers navigate personal belief when it is syndicated on a global scale?